The sun shone through the open door, and Hermie could hear the seagulls' cries outside. "I wish Father would hurry up. I need my walk pretty soon, or there may be a damp patch on his nice new carpet," Hermie protested. Father soon finished what he was doing and went into the cupboard to fetch Hermie's lead. "Walkies!" shouted Father. "There is no need to shout. I can see what you are doing, thank you." Father clipped on the lead and led Hermie to the door. They both walked more enthusiastically as the car came into view. Hermie pulled towards the car, but to his surprise, Father walked past. "What's happening?" "Surely you're not expecting me to walk to the beach?" Hermie said with alarm. "No car this morning. We're going to walk all the way." Really," Hermie muttered. He suddenly lay down on the grass and raised a paw, to suggest he would like to be tickled on his tummy. "Come on, don't be silly. You will like the walk," Father joked. "I think not," Hermie suggested, and rolled onto his back, with all 4 paws sticking up into the air. "What a sweet little dog," Anne, the little old lady, said, as she passed Father. "Oh, yes, he looks as though butter wouldn't melt in his mouth," Father replied. "Oh, yes, it would," Hermie thought, as he rolled around on his back. "You can tickle me whenever you're ready." The little old lady leant down and tickled Hermie's tummy. "Who's a good boy, then? Is this nice?" "Yes, thank you. Please don't stop," Hermie giggled to himself. "Right, that's enough. We need to get to the beach," Father said with frustration. On they both went, with Hermie at the full extent of his lead. He seemed very excited now, as the smell of the sandy beach came closer. "At last, the beach!" Hermie said, as he jumped down the steep granite steps and onto the damp sand. "If I let you off your lead, you must promise to come back to me when I call you." "Of course I will," Hermie sniggered to himself. The sand was covered in seaweed, and on seaweed there are always flies. Hermie looked curiously at a patch of weed where the flies were hovering. He cautiously went closer, but soon jumped back when the swarm saw him. "Let's get the little dog," the nasty flies said. Poor old Hermie started to run as the swarm gathered and headed straight for him. Suddenly, Hermie had to run a lot faster as the swarm of flies gradually caught up with him. "I know, I'll run into the sea," he said in desperation. The sea was rather wet, but Hermie plucked up courage and ran in. He paddled as fast as his little legs would let him. Luckily, the flies didn't like water and decided to return to their patch of seaweed. "Thank goodness for that," Hermie said, as he paddled around out of his depth. "Oh dear! Oh dear! Help! Hermie, is that you?" a doggy voice shouted. Doggies' hearing is more sensitive than humans, and Wilma, the Cockapoo, could hear Hermie quite clearly. Wilma stood on the beach with her mum, Pam. She could see Hermie and wanted to save him. She ran straight for the water and started doggy paddling towards Hermie. "Are you okay?" Wilma shouted. "Well, I suppose so, but I'm not really designed to float very well," Hermie shouted back. "I will try to help," Wilma replied. Wilma swam closer and closer until she managed to grab Hermie's tail in her mouth. She swam as hard as she could, pulling Hermie towards the beach, where Pam, her worried mum, was waiting. Wilma dragged Hermie back onto dry land. "How are you feeling?" Wilma said. "I feel an awful lot better than I did a few minutes ago, when I thought my life was about to end." "Oh, you do exaggerate," Wilma said. "I don't think so. If you knew what trauma I have just been through, you might be a little more sympathetic." Hermie then lay down on the sand and rested. Father knelt down next to him. "How are you, my little soldier?" he said with a smile. "Oh, I am a soldier now, am I? You'll make up your mind soon what I actually am." "Well, I am just about coping, thank you," Hermie replied, as he lay on the sand with all 4 paws outstretched. The sun was starting to set, and Hermie was feeling a little cold, so thought he would run around to keep warm. "Come on, Hermie, it's time to go," Father said. Now, this is where Hermie had a loss of memory and couldn't remember his promise to return to his lead when asked. "Hermie, could you please come closer so I can put your lead on?" Father demanded. "No, sorry, I am free, and you'll have to catch me." Hermie laughed to himself. Father tried time after time to catch Hermie, but on each occasion he would stand just a few inches out of reach. Father tried jumping forward, but just fell over. He tried running after Hermie, but still no luck. "Are you having a problem?" Hermie suggested, as he ran around the beach, keeping just out of reach of Father. "Hermie, if you don't come here now, I will get very cross," Father shouted. "No chance," Hermie laughed, as he still kept just out of reach of Father's grasping hand. Wilma laughed as Hermie still kept whizzing around the beach. "Hermie, don't you think it might be time to go back to Father?" Wilma said as an advisory note. Hermie stopped and thought for a moment. "Yes, I think you might be right." Hermie approached Father with two big, apologetic eyes and allowed him to attach the lead. "You little horror! I thought you promised to come back when I asked." "Ah, but in Doggy World we have a different set of rules when it comes to promises." Hermie saw Wilma looking at him in a strange way. "Bye-bye, Wilma," Hermie said. "Could we meet again soon?" "Oh, I do hope so," Wilma replied. All the way home, Hermie could only think of one dog, and that was, of course, Wilma.